And we back. Let's continue from where we left off with the new Royal Navy. The galleys, which is the ships of the Royal Navy of the Guards of the Indies. And before we begin, we show you a depiction of one of the kings of Florida, which Florida was a country that stretched from Texas to what we call Florida today. Most likely he paid the sheriff that we were talking about in the last video, the way everything was set up on the side, and the different nations and the different kings. But we see one, well, at least captioned as a king of Florida. And just to continue with our theme, to get help with the understanding that you'll see certain Roman groups, whether it be Smithsonian or British Museum or any one of these historian groups, we would call him a black king or an African king. So don't let them deter you if you want to call him a Moorish king of Florida. They're using terms that is collective terms, right? If they say a black king of Florida, or a black king of Scotland, or a black king of Australia, but they put the term black in front of it. So if they're using a collective term, why not you use your own collective term? Your ancestors. So let's begin. We will continue from yesterday. So enclaves, Christian towns, and the kingdom affairs. And in this one, we talking about the last one we talked about Brazil. We'll get back to that side, but in this piece right here, we talking about this side, the kingdom affairs, mostly entail from Mexico down to Chile on the left side of the continent, which became New Spain and New Kingdom of Granada and the New Kingdom of Castile. And again, people don't see that as far-fetched because of popularity. It's in the popular narrative, so it doesn't get questioned. It can be written about in 1,000 million history books, and no one will even question nothing about it. But what we talking about in this video, we won't get questioned because it's not popular. And you see what we talking about, the early 1500s, after the Peninsular Wars, where Spain take over the crown of Portugal. So you see they cross into Portuguese territory now, and when they met. Okay. So this is very well-known history, written, not hidden. I'm just showing you what the real is behind it. You see they call it the Spanish Empire. We call ours the Moorish Empire, and people malfunction. Like, what do you mean by Moorish Empire? I ask you, what you mean by Spanish Empire? So, of course, which included the entire coast, with the exception of the nucleus of Cartagena. The base of the fleets had the character of factories in uncontrolled territory. So you see, a lot of that we just see on that map. Those uncontrolled territories, they just write it on the map as if they do. But more still around most of this in reality, but on paper, they making maps and reflecting stuff like this on their maps, regardless if it's real or not. It's called manifest destiny. The job was to get your children to see those maps and realize that this their land until they were children. So, conquered by Pizarro, the Western Inca Empire, the Peruvians extended their terms on the eastern slopes of the Andes, turning a bare province into a kingdom. So they leave and create another kingdom right next to the old one that's been conquered by Pizarro. That's stuff that they don't talk about. So at the expense of so-called Aboriginal blacks. So again, right there, she telling you that don't fall up that foolishness that these people's Afro-Peruvians and Afro-Chileans, they've been there in this story at this time. And again, if you go back far enough and look at the old books, they've been calling them Hindios with an H, which take you back to the Arabic term al-Hind. And that's all, you didn't see that red like that no more. Hindios. It was said that in their capital, El Dorado, they treasured wealth superior to all of Pizarro's rapes. It was the refuge country of those who escaped to the land of infidels or the land of Moors. And again, you see when Pizarro and all these Spanish come and take these Moors to war, you see that survivors and people who left the colonies or that area, they went for freedom. They went into the land store under the Sharif because the Castilians wouldn't go there and deal with, because they would have to fight. So that right there showing you that migrants coming into our territories in America, and we took care of them and protected them. And you see that story told in Negro Folk's story. They tell you that in their own way, but that been happening all across the continent. And a lot of times it been these same tribes who used to invite these Castilians and Romans and do business with them. When they get salty, they ready to leave, come to the next territory over and bring that stuff there. You see, trading posts, dealing with trading posts, right? You see, fugitive slave. Everybody in the South who been getting caught up into the capturing by these Christians, they've been knowing you gotta find slow towns, slow rabbi Moors in America, you better get there. So you're refuge for fugitive slave. So we just talk about that right there just now. a land of infidels. That's where they be going at, and that's when Negro Fort was, a land of Moors. They still been under the old thing. When the United States formed, and they still been under the 13 colonies jurisdiction with Britain, and those treaties that were done between Moors and Britain for that 13 colonies. And we know that from the red flag. They say they were flying the red flag with the British Jack, and that just representing treaty relations. And that treaty relations was the 1720 treaty between Britain and Morocco. That been the reason for the 13 colonies, and they still been living in that realm. Fleeing from mitas, that's just the like encomiendas. Public service in society of the Inca Empire. It's modified and intensified by the Spanish colonial government as a system, and it became what we know as the encomienda. You also will look up the asiento, look that up too, because that's thing you see Moorish territories, Christian conquest of Moorish territories. So we're seeing that in America right now. Same thing. They've been escaping those mitas because you don't want to be governed by them. I'm telling you now, you just like today, you being governed by Rome, the Washington D.C., and you complaining. Same thing they were doing back then, complaining. And get out of Rome and get back in Morocco. Asiento. The English page just give you straight out the Asiento of the blacks. Spanish page, but take that out. Let me see. Agreement of blacks was a monopoly of contract between the Spanish crowd, various merchants, and the right to provide African slaves to the colonial colonies of the Spanish Americas, which is their territory of Americas. And they right too, because the Portuguese, Genoese, Dutch, French, all of them started to take up these contracts. Like, I got it, I'll get you some. That's why we tell you to leave Rome alone. Or trinkets that they're trying to give you is not worth it. You see the house of the contracts of the Indies. Take you there. House of the trade of the Indies. These will be called squares. A custom house. Companies that later became countries. Casa de India, Portuguese. Casa de Gui, or Guinea. That's why we know we're talking about the old Guinea of America. In the 1619 story, they say they come from Guinea because they've been Guinea at this time due to Casa de Guinea, which later became Casa de Indias. You see, they absorbed it because you deal with the same coast, the spice trades. After annexing the territory and the right of conquest of Portugal in 1580, William Philip II appropriated this crown. And we just finished talking about that. The Spanish crown took over the Portuguese crown for a while. The monarch understood that it was not possible in the metropolis or in the periphery to implement Castilian laws and forms. So even too much Moors who were knowing about Castile over here, and they had been having it, no meters around here, and incompatible regimes in the Indies. The Spanish Americas remained closed to the Portuguese and vice versa. So they always been fighting each other in America, Portugal and Spain. They always been against each other, nationalities. The squares on duty were 4 galleys of the Royal Navy Guards of the Indies. After the scare, Philip IV allowed in 1625 that the Marmora they dealt with Salé, not without reluctance, because he feared that through the square, rebel products would enter Spain. The result was optimal. The town grew, renting 10,000 ducats from customs in the year, and the Diet was enriched with Newfoundland cod. Newfoundland take us to America off the top. Acquired in Salé, where it entered in October, but the plague jumped in Barbary. So we got histories of plagues in America that they don't talk about neither. Close the squares to the Moors of peace. And what he talking about, the Moors of peace or Islam? He's talking about these Moors. We still talk about the new kingdom of Castile, or the new kingdoms of Spain and America. So we can stay in that area. We talk about the Paca Moros, or peace Moors. The troops cooked the horses when the country master Diego de Escobedo loaded a fishing boat in Salé to sail it in Spain. Out of pure mercy, he left 400 quintals passing through the square. When the business was denounced, he responded directly to the king, telling him that the furials of his army made the shopping every morning in a square supplied by Moors around the surroundings. Consequently, Olivares he sent money instead of victuals, so that they would pay in cash at the post. So, quick. I don't say that word like 3 times. I don't like doing that when they reading stuff, saying stuff, and I don't know why you're saying it, just saying it. Rituales might be in the Spanish. So that's a kill, but it still ain't telling me what that term means. Okay, provisions, alright. So I'll ask for definition real quick. In form of Philip the Fourth of Urca, who gave through whose sugar law was distributed by neighbors and garrisons, he refrained from claiming the part of the crown in view of the circumstances. According to Alonso de Guzman, the rest of privateers in the time of Charles V was reduced to a handful of Moors and French buccaneers, dedicated to stealing without much foundation. So you see these so-called, what they call maroons, are wrecked, shipwrecked Moors, the Savart Moors. These is literally Moors who losing their nationality and start being pirates, start stealing stuff instead of being hired by these. Usually, a lot of these Moors, French, English, whoever's sick can sail, will usually be hired by nobles, high nobility, kings, queens, dukes, and stuff. But now they hiring them to steal. They usually just to hire for the trade guilds to trade. But now we're in the era of the piracy, and he was represented by Muhammad in 1562 as he was about to recover Mazagon. After the Safranada, the Turks conquered Tremesen, kingdom of the Mediterranean Barbary, with an appendix in the Westeros. What she talking about is the two Valais. And again, we talking about annexations, appendixes, just like you got Canada over here and Britain over there, but it's an appendix of one another. You had the same with Moors and Turks too. They erased both of those groups out of America history. Like we showed in the last video, Turks Island store right there. They don't tell you nothing about them. All Moors and Turks. But what she talking about is evidence of that is this. So you got Fillets right there. That's the appendix of Sus, Tremesen. And you got Fellas on the other side. Pins on. That's what they call it, the other side. Pin on. So you got these ports attached. You know that's a port. That's just sitting right there, ready to travel. You need a place to embark. Especially if you come into the Americas, you gotta make sure you got a place to embark and disembark. One on both sides. You could just get on no boat and just ride and land on any old beach or wherever you find. You gotta have a place that take those ships in and be able to anchor. Moors and Turks ended up understanding each other except in brief periods of obfuscation, establishing fluid relations with French, English, and Dutch, impossible with Castilian monarchs whose mental architecture prevented establishing connection to whom he did not share his creed and criteria. So the Castilians been always letting their religion get in the way of this money. These other countries ain't even stupid. Until later, they start denationalize you too, calling you blacks and Africans too. But at the beginning, they respected everything dealing with you. All they did was come buy and sell, carry the ass. They ain't even know getting into the business of the people, personal businesses and shit like that with them. Castilians already started that, converting Moors, fighting against Moors because they enemies of their holy faith and stuff like that. In pirate times with the English, Dutch, and the French, they would have just put a vase on and come on through. In pirate times, scarce and privateers Rimbaud descended from the north through Mississippi, settling in Florida to be expelled without difficulty in 1566. So you see, 1566 from North America all the way down to the Moorish Kingdom of Morocco, the seat of the empire. Every set still going on. Everything being managed by the Moors from up down, up here, all the way down. Wherever you see the Spanish, that's where we at. So they expel them. The official Cabrera collects the episode which opened the era of the Corsican. In 1568, Admiral John Atkins, you already know about him, taking the young Drake by second rescue in the mine river hiring Portuguese, which was on the coast of Guinea, quote unquote, entering the Little Sea through Margarita, when passing through Cartagena. Modern books put Drake all in Africa because they're reading these old books and seeing him talking to Moors in Guinea, dealing with Moors in Guinea. So again, they're gonna be dense, and they don't care how much centuries ago this Guinea been. They gonna put it in modern day understanding of Guinea. So they got him in Guinea. Next thing you know, he in California that quick. Cause they ain't know he in this Guinea. Dealing with it right now. That's why Georgetown right there. We're gonna read about why. It's all about gold. The governor, when passing through Cartagena, he asked for a license to fare in his port. The governor denied it, continuing in English to Veracruz, where they were received. So he in Mexico now, that quick from Guinea. So easy travel on the seas, going through the islands, and had Veracruz, and they received him. They gave how when a New Spain fleet entered. When the general heard that they were bringing gold, he decided to appropriate it. So you see, Spain were trying to steal his gold. They know he was coming from the gold mines of Mina, Guinea, with gold, and they were ready to set him up and capture that boy and take his gold, because they again believed it's the continent, Spain. He decided to appropriate it, attacking the admiral. Loaded the treasure on the other ships. The English fled with the gold, and a lesson learned. The privateers emerged dedicated to stealing, protected by his government. So you see, even the government started to hire these privateers to steal, maintaining effective war at sea, and it became a land of great wars in this era, without the need to declare it. The famous Turks of Algiers and England soon surpassed them by the Dutch, French participating on a smaller scale. So these Europeans, they destroying this empire that the Spanish think they got. In America, they just coming doing their own business and deals with Moors, and that's why the English got so much early treaties with chiefs and so-called maroon chiefs and Indian chiefs all over the place, because they've been going behind Rome back and the Sharif's back, making their own business deals with these tribes. Like, hey, we'll buy your products. Together they stopped the expansionist zeal of an empire, dangerous politically and ideologically for orthodox closure, but irrelevant economically for more than enough stubbornness and lack of common sense, not potential wealth. And that's because of piracy and greed. It was the cause of Philip II to fail miserably when he tried to create his own privateers. In 1578, the United Provinces, and that's with the Dutch Empire coming in that now, declared themselves independent, recognized by Europe. They supplied soil poverty with tolerance, which attracted Harlan and Galinda, the best brains on the continent. So you got all the nobles going to Harlan discussing business and enlightenment, conditioned by dogma, knowing that the idea of good generate them of quality in short time that they had the first fleets on the continent. Exporters of wood acquired in the Baltic, Novgorod, cereals, butters, cicinas, leathers, and fish made with raw materials acquired in the Indies and south of the Araya Peninsula. So this also explains to us why we got this area in the Dutch Harlem, which is a Dutch term. You see Moors in Harlem, New Amsterdam, because of these relations that we're talking about right now. Having the white home achieved the highest standard of living in Europe. In 1580, Drake walked through the Pacific, shocking Philip II, who ordered the Magellan rediscoverer. Gambale de Sarmiento was commissioned with the pilot Anton de Pablos, leaving Peru, exceeded the seat of the old Sierra Leone customs at 8.5 degrees. He sailed off the coast of the Placeo, so we see that in the last video on those old maps, still in Brazil, called Punta de Placeo, the coast of the Placeo. So we know that Sierra Leone is Sierra today, that we talking about in this video right now. It's the old Sierra Leone, but they ain't really changed the name. They just put a C instead of S, so Port of Peace, or Port of Islam, if you want to translate it. In the Latin, it would be Pac, peace. And Numerata. To Santiago de Cabo Verde. At the entrance of the port, he fought with a French buccaneer. Arrested, he declared that he was based in Uguana, where he returned via Margarita, having collected hides and sugar. At that time, 8 years ago, the English Rome Levante based some among Aborigines for having married a native. They adopted local customs and escaping into the interior as soon as European sails appeared. So you see they stole running from the Philippines, the Philip Empire. They stole running from them because they profiteering. They still under Rome, but they going against the orders that they receiving in the European Holy Roman Empire. The English and the French doing what they want to do. They ain't care what Rome orders us, but Rome would order both of them as being Christian nations, and they going right in there and assimilate. So, but the most land in the community establishing settlement, they did it in Paranaíba or Grande, Brazil first bay against Guinea. The armed Portuguese sent them to evict them, but the storms undid it, returning a ship in rescue. When Philip II took over the crown of Portugal, the British were installed in All Saints Bay and Cape Cole or Cabo Frio and Canania. coal, Cabo Frio. Then we gotta look for the other one. I just want you to. I be saying I don't know if I reading these, and just because I understand why I read it, I know if my viewers understand why I read it. So like that's why I keep going to that Wikipedia or to that map. Just can understand it. And you can see everything that we go to always us cities, ports, always port cities on the sea. That let you know it's ancient ports. You might pull skyscrapers around in these areas now today, but these old cities, and they just pop up. Somebody gotta let people. Somebody gotta start telling the history of these things. Let's see what they say about Cabo Frio. They might bring it up. Old Norman trading post of Mauritania is what Cabo Frio is. See, Frio, Portuguese for coal. Damn, no history. They usually give you an etymology and a history. And then Sao Tome, we talk about that a lot. St. Thomas. Alright. Founded by the Portuguese in 1615. So they pushed the date up some, because way older than that. The Normans predate 1650, and those are the old order of Christ. So they skipped that part of the story. What the Portuguese did appropriate it. So months later, with the Alba's army at doors and without means of defense, the prior of Orcrado proclaimed King of Portugal in the court of Setúbal, passed to the England by his means, offering Elizabeth the gold of the mine in exchange for alliance ships and weapons. Informed Alonso de Guzman, so they been informed that this prior of Orcrado, who proclaimed himself King of Portugal at the courts of Setúbal, been ready to give rights to England in America, Brazil. And it's alarming to Philip II again, because he believes it belongs to him. But again, we see the English getting involved from different reasons that nobody want to talk about. Informed Alonso de Guzman, he proposed chartering in Huelva chalupa of 70 tons with as many men. They would carry weapons to distribute to the Spanish fishermen who were in Cape Aguirre with some wheat. And you see, every time we deal with Guzman, we go deal with the story spoken in these terms that disappear because it's Moorish. But he talking about America. It would be given to the convicted Moors for having them happy. With that strength and lore, the rivers Cabo Blanco and Cape Verde would occupy the forest of Arguim, the Guinea Gate, for being on the same coast. So we already know Cape Blanco. We saw that. We see that plenty of times. It's one of those places that's still there. I think they're changing the Bronco now since Portuguese. Yeah. And a white cape. So we occupied the fortress of Arguem, the Canary Gate, for being on the same coast. The operation was almost postponed by the king predicting without mistake that surrendered Lisbon, the overseas province, another example of attached kingdoms, annexations. So the Duke would tell him just get Lisbon, and these overseas provinces that connected to Lisbon will follow. What take place? In charge of the Guzman to take possession of the squares, he delegated to the third party to visit two Ceuta and Tangiers, more connected ports to America, going personally to Mazagon. Impressed by the Spanish power, the government of Sao Tome, St. Thomas, with the mine, Guinea, Mina, Cabo Verde, and Brazil gave obedience. So you see all those connected under those appendices. In 1581, he followed the island of St. Michael, one of the third and the largest in the warden of Arguem, a square that housed a political refugee, Prince Muli Daoud, head of the lineage, dethroned by the first Muli Muhammad. So you see all this going on while you fighting each other. So you're getting it from the Guzman point of view. So he know a lot of what's going on amongst the Moors. A lot of different things going on with the people, the Moorish people. But again, like I said, we only concern ourselves with the nobles. What's going on with the leaders? So 1582, he sent an opportune ambassador to San Lucar with the Duke of Medina re-expanded to the square by embarking him in Huelva, a suitable port to follow the Aguirre road. Just like centuries early with Columbus, he had to deal with Huelva and Palos in order to have a place to embark to America. When, with the Portuguese crown, Philip II acquired two hostages, which illustrate the kingdoms of Westeros of America. But you know, he now find in the Portuguese crown, he about to see how they dealt with the continent. Drowning the Sharif Mohammed and the Locus after the battle of Alcazar Quivir, his brother Moulay Nazar took refuge in Arcilla, passing to Lisbon. What are we talking about? On this side, all those clues. You got Lisbon right there. You got Arcilla down here. See Mazagon, El Jadida. All these attached ports. Yeah, Moulay, what he said pay fast to Lisbon. He lost hope of returning to the homeland, and that right there showing us that he ain't talking about homeland right across back to Arcilla on this side. Because if he had a ship or a boat to get from here to pass through from here to get to Lisbon, he had one that could have get him back right here. He went to Lisbon to find a way to his homeland, aka Guinea, this area, the Arcilla over here. You're gonna see that 2 times. Him and his nephew gonna do that. They will go to Portugal to get to America because they warring with Moors over here. Moors over here want to kill Moulay Sheikh. He escaped here to come here to the Sus. We'll get to that. See, He said in 1590 asked for a board to retire with his servants, quote unquote, throw us in the land of Guinea, which borders Arguim. And just like Philip did in his record too, he also make delineations. He wanted to go to the Guinea that borders Arguim, not the Guinea. It's showing you they already been confusions from these 1536 maps that they've been making and distributing. He been conscious of that, like Philip, that among those Arabs I would like very much to end my life. Muli Shekwe, Mohammed's heir, was in the Sus when his father died. Refugee in Mazagon, he went to Tavira. Did the same thing. Instead of Lisbon, he went to Tavira from across the street. So again, he ain't asking them for boats that could make that easy travel. He need overseas travel boats that could take him through the Atlantic. You need pantry, you need certain sails and all that. Years later, correctly feeling that his head would be a bargaining chip, he tried to save it, asking Philip II for one or two ships for himself and his people. Attached to the fleets, they would move away when passing through the Canary Islands. So that's again showing you that he going west and he going to America, because ain't nothing else through the Canary Islands. When you go through these islands, he apparently ain't going this way. But you can assume they're going to this Guinea. That can be an assumption. But let's continue. Attached to the fleets, he said, where Mule was 9 leagues from its landing place in Barbary. Short the road, he would get into the very rough mountains of the Sus. And all those in quotes for reasons. We ain't gonna get into that now, we're gonna keep going. Where he had his intelligences fighting Sharif from it. Well, quickly, this definitely can't be where he just come from and they taking his head right from across here, these rough mountains and stuff. Because they would be saying he lived from here, come right here, ask for ships to go through here, just to come back right here. If we be dense with the story, right? The kingdom of Sus between Fez and Morocco was for Leon in Africa, the great river, which, born in Nubia, crossed the desert, emptying into the Atlantic, into the plain of his name, near the Moroccan Isauria, where sweet cane is supposed to have grown. Moles, again, we talking about these mole workers that we see on these maps. We see Moors working these moles. Worked until the 17th century, and the Barbary horses prospered, was supposed to be grassland in a region as rich in sand as it is poor in pastures. So he reconstructed over here, and we know what we talking about is lands like this, rich in pastures, rivers. But Leon Africa put it over here in his description of Africa, and that's what every Roman book started to copy ever since him. So due to popularity, it's far-fetched at these stories, and that's why we gotta write like this. At the court of the Sharif, king of Fez and Morocco, Pedro Venegas and his interpreter Diego Marin made sleeves and capirotes. You already know what that is. We know what that is, showing us that we're in the right area. See, Nazarenos. To get the delivery of Portuguese captive, who, in the opinion of Philip II, was King D. Sebastian. Taking advantage of the time, Marin attended the presence of ambassador of Atlanta blacks. So he going and with an ambassador of the so-called Atlanta blacks and Sahara on regular boat arriving from the province, originally from the messenger with a load of gold for Hamete. And you see the Nazarene Moors, these Moors who've been Christians, they've been ambassadors, but they've been even from Atlanta blacks, and they might even stole from Africa, black lands and stuff too, just like the D. Now I can't really fault them because they already been under rulership. You still been rocking with that, working with these Portuguese. Originally from the messenger with the Lord of Gold for Hamete. Excited the curiosity of the sake, he wanted to know from which country the treasure came from. He think he didn't know which Guinea, because he already know about both of the Guinea on both sides of the sea. He wanted to know exactly which one the gold come from. Following the report that if he had not been lost, he would be in Samancas. What Marin lost was patient, willing to solve the issue. In 1585, he attempted a coup d'etat. He failed to kill the captive, but they killed him. More smart for niggas, he got into Azamor, embarked for Tangier. He arrived in August, going to San Lucar. So we know we ain't talking about from Azamor, going into Azamor from Tangier on the other side, because that's right next to each other, and it wouldn't take months to get there. We just continue. He arrived in August going to San Lucar. He said that Hamete had started the conquest of Guinea, and a land that touches his Portuguese crown, majesty, being the company of consideration for the opinion of the Duke of Medina, because at last it's saved that it is a land of much gold. Fearing losing a gram, Philip II reluctantly received the advice to add to Scythia for sale because it came out defective. The license incentive to sell fruits of the land in Guinea de los Rios. So that's how the Duke of Medina separated the two Guinea. So when he said which country that it come from, he called it the Guineas of the rivers, the one with all the rivers, which is America. The marriage of Manuel of Portugal, firstborn of the prior of Arcaratus, to the daughter of Mauricio de Nassau, gave broad strength to his allies to occupy the Portuguese Indies. That's why the Dutch started going into the Portuguese squares. He married his daughter to Maurice. Maurice going and make the claim. So in 1612, the French founded the sugar center of San Luis at the mouth of the Maranon. Tripping in 1614, Captain Biscayan with the Capes was 7 merchants. They brought many people from different nations, quote unquote. He fired on the ship, causing deaths, but they did not stop, because those who have no present do not abandon the future en route. In 1625, It was learned that in Plymouth, in England, they prepared 18 ships of 200 tons, to which 26 would be chartered in different ports. So you see how the English, they coming in this game, and we a little bit after the 1619 project. But don't let them skip all those and just talk about something bringing Africans to Virginia. Tell them to tell you the whole truth. With the Indian seas infested with 2 years in this part, wanting to stop the flight of inhabitants, Philip the Fourth imitated his grandfather, trying to create his own privateers under the pretext of attending to people. And that's what we're saying about these rescues. It come under those pretexts, like the Red Cross and all this stuff. And that's what the stories say too with John Hawkins and the story of 1619. They say they've been how they say it? They term it in a way as if they've been helping. But that is kind of true because you're dealing with wars. You're dealing with wars, so you got captives. So these privateers would be like the ones who will pick out the migrants from those wars. One who stopped the foot say, under the pretext of attending the people who have asked me for it. He offered a license to rob at sea whoever armed high board, pledging to hand over the fifth to the prey to the crown. Closed Guinea by the Austria as kings of Portugal. Europe looked at the land of blacks, quote unquote, which is on the eastern shore of the Atlantic. So they start going to the other side, which is Africa, after Philip II closed the ports to all other Christians, because he damn sure ain't before closing them to us. He was just in the Holy Roman Empire, closing them to the rest of the members, France, Dutch, Germany. So they going to the other side. They still been bringing the war, fighting in the Atlantic, so far away because the trip is complex. See, that trip much more complex to make from Europe. It'll be easier to make it from America. Coming from Europe down here and making this sharp turn into this area too hard because the wind pushing away from this area. So in order to hit Africa, it would have been wiser to hit here and hit here, then hit cross. We from here, so we can just hit cross. But coming from the side, the wind's pushing you to the west. So that's what she mean by tough travels. The European crowns will start factories. So they're starting these factories now on the west coast of Africa, which again is the same thing they do in the last one. You start factories on top of old ruins that already been created, old ports, or buying ports from malls or whatever they're doing. But they ain't saying they bulling from the ground up, nothing. So they repeated the main place names. The secondary ones followed. Materialized the liar maps, and that's when these maps that we see we got tons of different names on the side. Well, West Africa, when you see on Google Maps, you don't really see that much, but if you can find all maps that got like it's super populated, and that's just because you got a lot of navigators doing business, different nations, and they be using the names that they use to call it. And that's what you mean by these place names, and it materialize on these maps that we got, and they liar maps to say the least. So Boris qui pro quo occurred. Um, Boris qui pro quo de facto about to leave Luis Rajado with the Ocean Sea Navy toward the island of St. Helena to disrupt the Dutch, who was returning from the Moluccas. He was ordered to double the day. The will to pass were were along the coast of Guinea and on the way evict the Dutch, who are in the fort of Borre next to the mine. So you got two Borres. As gold was paramount, the king changed his mind. Without giving him time to set sail, he will go directly to the mine. He sailed sea ahead when it was learned that the fortress of Saint George de Borre was in the vicinity of Niger. Not wanting Austria to miss the trip, a warning boat was sent, which reached Fajado with the order to correct the course. So they been ready. They about to fall for the rumor, for the new Saint George Borre that the Dutch set up in Africa, naming it the same thing that been in America. So they almost tricked them. They sent out a boat real quick to tell them, "Oh, you gotta go the other way. You going to the wrong one. Go to the gold mine." Said which reached Fajado with an order to correct the course. It would occupy La Mamora, properly probably so by his honor, the King of Fez, because the Spanish did not encounter resistance, entering the lot which was left on the fortress of Arguin. In 1640, the year of Portugal independence, English, Dutch, and French shared the exploitation of the Isthmus, Guyana, and the Lesser Antilles. So we just talked about that in the last video. When she said Isthmus, she's talking about this area. This is the Isthmus. And the islands, and you got the Lesser Antilles coming down, going across these little islands right there. And you got Guyana. Dutch, Suriname, French, Guinea, in order. English, Dutch, French shared the exploitation of the Isthmus, Guyana, and the Lesser Antilles. English skipper testified in Bonanza that crossed with the 400-ton Dutch ship loaded with families. They were probably on their way to Recife, where Mauricio de Nassau was populating. We know Recife. Still famous city today. You always gonna see buildings like this. Mirabilandia, the island of Itamaracá. Right next to Olinda, which used to be Punta de Allende. So the Canary Islands should be somewhere over here. So I can go 15 more minutes to hurry we get through this. So we see modern day mother and child, Moorish woman, and another evidence that we're dealing with the land of Moors being America. Because Maryland is the land of Mary, and this is Mary, which is a Moorish woman. And America, again, if the term of mayor means a Moorish prince, and the ICA is a feminine version of the land, dealing with feminine. So we can assume that this a mayor. They talking about us Mary from Maryland. You see, always the Morris woman representing Mary. Even in Mexico, Veracruz got their own version of mother and child, Mary. So you see these all over Europe to this day, all over. So basically, we finished with this this quick little series, and start on a new one in the next video. Peace.